And the award for Best YouTube Channel goes to Ian Bortz.
Oh, for me? Whoa, look at this award. Yeah, actually, sorry to do this, man, but there's been a mistake. This award is going to Markiplier.
Hello, everybody. My name is Markiplier.
Today is the Oscars. In just a couple hours, Conan O'Brien will be taking his sexy body up on stage to deliver the awards to the best films of the year, according to some old white guys. Also known as the one day of the year that avid Letterboxd users are more excited for than Christmas. I watched all 50 nominees this year because I hate myself. So let's find out what was the worst and what was the best, starting with the Every year there's one short that is genuinely mind-bogglingly bad, and unfortunately this year's is The Three Sisters. I don't understand what compelled the Academy to nominate this piece of doo-doo feces, but the story is bland, the animation is amateur, and it also has slight misogynistic undertones. With so many possible angles that a story could take on the Palestine conflict, Butcher's Stain follows a route which is mostly inauthentic and goes absolutely nowhere. Spoiler alert, this title is a pun. Ever wonder what would happen if a woman from a Jane Austen romance novel got her period as she was being proposed to? This got a few good laughs out of me, but feels more like the work of a sketch comedy YouTube channel than anything else. Extremely sweet story about an older woman who befriends a young man with a passion for acting. The biggest issue I have with it is the lack of anything remotely new or interesting. This is a pretty interesting doc that shines more in its concept than its execution. Armed Only with a Camera presents the life of Brent Renaud, the first American journalist that was killed during the war in Ukraine, through clips of his past films, but the whole thing comes off a little exploitative to the culture showcased, in some cases suffering with little to no context. Beautifully sad stop-motion animation that admittedly leaves a bit to be desired in the plot department. The ending will either be hit or miss, and it felt quite flat for me. Listen. Do I feel bad putting footage of 3 donkeys with no narration this high? No, I don't. The story of an orphan bear cub who gets raised by a pine tree, which, as it sounds, is quite possibly the cutest thing in the entire world. The problem comes from the iron grip that Forever Green holds on the Pixar formula. I felt several times throughout watching that I had seen this already. A short film about the silent protests held in Tel Aviv for the children killed in the Israeli attacks that makes the crucial mistake of focusing more on the organization of the protests than the children themselves. It has little to nothing to say. This film follows Tracy, the director of an abortion clinic in Atlanta, and how she deals with the pro-life objectors that flood the parking lots every day. Fuck each and every person who helped to overturn Roe v. Wade, by the way. The story patrons of a dive bar on a solemn night host an impromptu singing contest for $100, and by God, the vibe of this is immaculate. Each singer bears their soul in such a human and heartfelt way. My issue is that it feels way too short. I wish this had a little more meat on its bones. Retirement Plan may not be the most impressive short, but I think it was the one that spoke to me the most. Its message that our time is valuable is relatable to almost anyone, and it is the type of film that makes me remember that life is worth living. From the premise alone, nobody could have made this except the French. In a world where kissing is outlawed and getting slapped is a form of payment, a tragic love story is hidden behind a surrealist and dystopian nightmare. It's so weird, but that only makes me love it more. Steve Hartman sets out to photograph the bedrooms of children that were the victims of school shootings. It is heartbreaking, but achingly beautiful, and a way to see these kids as they should be remembered. Far and away the best short film is Butterfly, a touching ode to the life of Alfred Nakach. It combines breathtaking hand-painted animation with brilliantly told story of love, loss, tragedy, and triumph as Nakach recollects on his life as a Jewish swimmer during World War II. Jurassic World Rebirth is up for visual effects. The Jurassic World franchise continues with the wet fart of a movie subtitled Rebirth, as if this isn't the most formulaic and unoriginal movie that could have possibly been made. You want a cliche? We got it! Only $20.99 for all you can stomach. And when the screenplay isn't draining the well for all it's worth, it's somehow even worse. The shining example to me is when a family just so happens to stumble upon a random inflatable raft in the middle of a jungle, and then 30 seconds later, this raft is somehow unharmed when getting bitten, scratched, and generally thrown around by a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then a 5-year-old outswims the T-Rex. That is not physically possible. Outside of that, the dialogue is clunky, the characters are shallow as hell, and the story is entirely meaningless. This is a joke of a movie down to the fact that it reuses entire scenes from Spielberg's masterpiece, such as the beat-for-beat remake of the raptor scene in this flaccid-ass third act. The only praise I can give this film is that it looks really good. I mean, the visual effects nomination was definitely warranted, except for the fact that it had a budget of $225 million, so actually, not really. And, well, what in the Megamind type shit is this? God, fire your barber at least, jeez. Diane Warren Relentless is up for Best Original Song. We do not care. Diane Warren is on an unbeatable streak of 17 original song nominations without one singular win. She continues the streak in the most meta way physically possible with yet another nomination for a movie about her own failure. Now, in my eyes, I view being nominated as a win in and of itself, but I also recognize that coming up just short countless times has an objective comedy that is hilarious, especially when she's so desperate, practically pleading on her hands and knees in this doc. And the crazy thing is, the song written for this isn't even that good. It's uninspired at best. Actually, same with the film. It's exactly what you think it is even before watching. Stop making mediocre songs for bad movies. Please, Diane, I'm begging you, stop this madness. Viva Verdi is up for Best Original Song. I truly don't have much to say about Viva Verdi. That's probably because the whole thing is 78 minutes and barely contributes to much of anything. This is a documentary about the residents of Casa Verdi, the retirement home for musicians founded by Giuseppe Verdi. In certain ways, it feels less like a feature documentary and more like something you'd catch halfway through on PBS on a Tuesday afternoon. The song it's nominated for, Sweet Dreams of Joy, is pretty well done and the vocals are killer. But I don't know, what am I supposed to say about something that was only included because of the song they made for it? That was like 4% of the movie. The Last Bus is the latest from Paul Greengrass, director of 3 of the 5 Jason Bourne films, which I'm realizing now is kind of a sad legacy. In his latest docudrama, McConaughey plays a bus driver who evacuates a group of 22 children from the 2018 wildfire in Paradise, California. If someone were to come up to me and ask me what a coworker movie is, I'd simply show them this. It's not awful, but it also offers up 0 reasons to actually care about the narrative that is being told. I don't give a shit about McConaughey's backstory with his son, or how America Ferrera has never left the town she grew up on, or the kid named Toby who gets a sizable chunk of screen time for some reason. One thing I will say is if you're gonna do a wildfire flick, the flames have to look good, and they kinda knocked it out of the park. Where's the substance? Where's the sauce? Where's the je ne sais quoi? I've played these games before. Mr. Nobody Against Putin is a documentary shot over 2 years following Pavel Telenkin and his crusade against the propaganda issued in schools in Russia. It is also the only movie I had to watch through a Google Drive link because it wasn't on streaming and didn't play in theaters in my city. In that way, I felt one with Telenkin, smuggling stolen footage out of his hometown of Karabakh so that he could make the film outside of the watchful eye of the Russian government. To risk your life to be a whistleblower for a corrupt government is very brave. The fact that Telenkin can no longer enter Russia out of fear is terrible. I can also say that I did not like this film very much. It gestures at a lot of ideas about propaganda and nationalism, but never really digs into them, and not enough actually happens across the runtime to sustain the story. The real-life situation is compelling, but the documentary itself never quite finds a way to turn that into something dramatically engaging. Elio is up for Best Animated Feature. It's also certainly a Pixar movie. These are 2 truths. That is most of what you need to know about the Pixar movie Elio. This movie bombed at the box office because it was not marketed well in the slightest. It is the same formula that has been used for Pixar's entire catalog, boiled down to a concentrated soup of predictability. The focus is on a young boy named Elio, raised by his aunt after the death of his parents, who is obsessed with the idea of going to space. When aliens arrive, he is accidentally chosen as the ambassador to Earth. And what I love about this movie most is that the premise is so creative, but I don't think it really capitalizes on that premise enough. The Smashing Machine is up for makeup and hairstyling. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson takes on a serious role for the first time in his life, and somehow, despite everything, is one of the best parts of it. The Rock genuinely puts on a great performance as UFC fighter Mark Kerr as he aspires to win the Pride Fighting Championship in Japan and become one of the greatest fighters in the world. I think this film very cleverly flips the common conventions of both the biopic and the sports movie by focusing on Kerr's internal struggles, such as his opioid addiction and deteriorating relationship, rather than the matches himself. This in turn leads to a very uneventful and anticlimactic movie with a script that is unfortunately just not good enough to carry such a story. It's an ill-fated consequence of making a really interesting choice, and I don't think that's on Benny Safdie, who directs very competently. Zootopia 2 is up for animated feature. I have never been a fan of the original Zootopia, so this was always going to be an uphill battle for me. The subtlety in using different species of animals as a metaphor for race relations and societal issues is non-existent, and the over-reliance on references to pique the curiosity of the audience is kind of insulting to me. What I did like in the original was the relationship dynamic between Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde, which was very easy to root for. Their chemistry was so good that people made lots and lots of fan fiction, shall we say. In their second going, though, they leaned into this really hard, and it was kind of uncomfortable at certain times. The RPM was also nuts, dude. That's references per minute, if you didn't already know. Some did work for me, such as the reference to The Shining, which caught me totally off guard, but the vast majority had me rolling my eyes. In all of its faults, though, the script was much stronger this time around, and it actually contained a plot twist, which I didn't see coming, which is crazy considering what we were working with in the last movie. Zootopia 2 also uses a new Hollywood cheat code. Cast Ki Hoi Kwan in any movie, and it instantly gets better. Song Sung Blue is up for supporting actress. Somehow got this and A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond musical, conflated in my mind, so when this film started with Hugh Jackman in an AA meeting with a missing tooth, I was absolutely bamboozled like you wouldn't believe. In reality, Song Sung Blue is a biopic about Mike Sardina, aka Lightning, an aspiring musician who finds success through a Neil Diamond tribute act with his wife Claire, aka Thunder. What follows is a set of absolutely ridiculous circumstances, absurdly high highs and devastating lows. If this was not a documented true story, I would call bullshit immediately. Of course, there are some embellishments and changes for the screen, but most of the part it is pretty accurate. The one thing though that struck me as strange was the timeline, which was over 15 years in real life, but in the movie none of the characters appear to age, including their son, who looks 12 years old the entire fucking time. The whole movie is also shot and directed almost like a sitcom, and that took me out of the story several times because of how cheap it looked and felt. The heart of Song Sung Blue actually belongs with Claire though, portrayed incredibly by Kate Hudson. She feels so out of place given a great performance in this type of movie, but given what the real Claire had to go through, it required a certain nuance that was pulled off, I think, very well. I don't get the hate for this nomination at all. Some people don't like the accent, and hey man, that's a you problem. I think you're just racist against Midwesterners. Come See Me in the Good Light is up for documentary feature, and it tells the very touching story of Andrea Gibson and trying to find meaning as you are dying of cancer. Andrea and their wife Megan have to navigate life, illness, and their relationship, and there are definitely moments that are extremely emotionally powerful. A lot of genuine love and vulnerability are captured in the little tiny moments like fixing that damn mailbox, which breaks over and over again. The problem for me is that it's pretty bland and standard when it comes to documentary filmmaking. I also don't really get poetry, but maybe that's just because my brain is full of rocks. Avatar Fire and Ash is up for visual effects and costume design, and it is my pick for VFX. At this point, the Avatar franchise has basically become the cinematic equivalent of reheating leftovers. I mean, am I right or am I right? Like this video if you agree. Fire and Ash is once again the same fucking movie that James Cameron has shilled out a third time. Humans show up, led by Quaritch. Jake Sully finds a new place to live that doesn't accept him. The Na'vi resist. We get a giant third act battle that's over an hour long. Jake and his family are finally brought into the fray, except by this point you're falling asleep because the damn thing is too long. James needs to get his shit together. He has clearly reached the stage of his career where nobody can tell him to cut anything, so the movie just sprawls for hours repeating the same beats we've already seen before, and somehow this schlock still manages to make over $1 billion just to like spit in my face or something, because I'm inevitably gonna get excited for the next installment, only for it to ultimately let me down. Especially because at this point I've actually given in to the world building. It's really fucking cool, and if they would do anything interesting at all with the story, that would be wonderful. To be fair, the visual effects are still absurdly impressive. Cameron's whole thing is pushing technology forward, and the Pandora environments still look incredible. That nomination makes sense. The costume design one, though, it's questionable. I like it in theory, the volcano people look absurdly cool, but then there's this. What even is this? Why does this white child have dreads and no clothes? Why would you do this? F1 is up for Best Picture, Editing, Sound, and Visual Effects. If you know anything about this Oscars lineup, you were probably aware that this would be the first Best Picture nominee to grace us with its presence. That doesn't mean it's necessarily bad, though. In fact, I think a lot of this movie actually works, believe it or not. But it also has some pretty glaring issues. Let's get the positives out of the way. Kosinski does a phenomenal job with the actual races themselves. They feel like getting punched in the face, in a good way though, with quick cuts, brilliant sound design, and big set pieces. I truly wonder how many cars were destroyed in the making of this movie. This serves as my introduction to Damson Idris, and he is really great here. Now, unfortunately, I can't think of a third thing, but the fact that this got noms for Best Picture and Editing is actually laughable. Sure, the editing is fine during the race scenes, but the vast majority of the movie, when characters are just talking, it is low-key distracting how many times they cut away to a useless reaction shot that is nothing to the narrative. Speaking of the narrative, it is watered down to the point of, well, water. I wouldn't be surprised if you told me AI wrote this. Half of these characters are giant walking nothing burgers, especially Carrie Condon, who I'm pretty sure only exists to get a woman on the cast, but then immediately becomes a love interest for Brad Pitt, despite their characters having zero chemistry at all. So, if you're looking for a fun, turn off your brain kind of movie, this is genuinely perfect, but otherwise, get out of my Best Picture category. At least it's not Amelia Perez. Blue Moon is up for lead actor and original screenplay. And me and Lorenz Hart are the exact same. We both fucking hated Oklahoma. That's probably our only similarity. I am not a short, balding white guy with a drinking problem. But you know what? Neither is Ethan Hawke, but he slays the hell out of this performance. Other than that, I left with pretty much a lack of anything to chew on. The movie plays out like one long scene, and the dialogue is extremely wordy and fast without much of a plot. That's typically not how I like my movies. Now, if it was a play, it would be a different story. Arco is up for animated feature. This is a cozy French film about a boy from the future who accidentally gets stuck in the past and must get help from a little girl to make his way home. And yeah, these character designs are chopped as hell, but you know what? This movie is cozy and uses colors really well. The palette leans heavily on soft pastels and primary colors, which give the film this dreamlike bedtime story atmosphere. The plot is also so simple, but the world building around it is so rich and developed, which means you don't need to focus super hard on getting all the details, but there is still enough to bite into. And besides, not everything needs to be the greatest movie in the world. Sometimes they can just be Arco. Cutting Through Rocks is up for documentary feature, and it proves that nothing else matters if you have a stellar documentary subject at the center of it all. Sarah Shahverdi is the first elected councilwoman of her Iranian village, and she is trying to make some changes. This doc follows the barriers she attempts to break down, her successes, and the pushback that comes with it. But it's mostly told in a basic cinema verite style that only works because Sarah is as compelling and likable as she is. I mean, fuck, she rides motorcycles. If you see this, can we, hang out? I feel like that would be a grand old time. The Ugly Stepsister is up for makeup and hairstyling, and can I just say that The Substance has opened the door for grotesque indie body horror movies to get nominated for makeup, and I've never been happier. The Ugly Stepsister is a retelling of the classic fairy tale of Cinderella, but all fucked up and also Norwegian. In this version of the story, the prince is having a ball to choose his wife, and so we follow the stepsister Elvira as she attempts to fit the standard of beauty through unhealthy and destructive ways. The film ends up being pretty heavy-handed in its themes of body positivity, but the way those themes are communicated is interesting enough that it's easy to brush that off. And unlike The Substance, which was overwhelmingly extreme with its body horror to the point of ridiculousness, The Ugly Stepsister is subtler and more realistic, which is unnerving to watch and affected me several days afterwards. Hamnet is up for Best Picture, Director, Lead Actress, Adapted Screenplay, Casting, Costume Design, Production Design, and Original Score. Y'all are crazy for this one. I guess this is kind of my hot take for the Oscar season, but what does Hamnet do that gives it this much award buzz? I don't understand it. It's driving me crazy. The premise boils down to how the death of Shakespeare's son inspired him to write, but the focus is actually on his wife Agnes, played by Jessie Buckley. She is really good in this, like really good. She's probably gonna win lead actress, and I won't be that mad. But I swear to God, if Hamnet pulls out Best Picture, I will riot. The people are saying that it's the tearjerker of the season, but it just felt so cold to me. This is the one that I just have to admit I'm not gonna get and move on. The Perfect Neighbor is up for documentary feature, and when are they gonna let documentaries in the editing category? Last year it was soundtrack to a coup d'etat, this year The Perfect Neighbor was snubbed, next year it'll be the documentary about the Great Molasses Flood of 1919 or something. I don't know, I can't tell the future. This film is pieced together through entirely body cam footage, and yet it never gets stale or repetitive. It follows a group of kids and the most racist neighbor in the world, and what happens when she finally breaks. It runs the risk of treading into that sort of Netflix true crime doc territory, but it never quite makes it there, thankfully. K-Pop Demon Hunters is up for animated feature and original song. First, I just want to say that I can't believe that the studio behind Open Season and the Emoji Movie is at the forefront of animated films now. This is truly diabolical. K-Pop Demon Hunters isn't the best animated movie in the year. Hell, there are 3 or 4 I watched that weren't even nominated that were better. I'm looking at you, Chainsaw Man. But what K-Pop Demon Hunters does that Elio and Zootopia do not is that it has style and a fuck ton of passion and creativity. Are the songs bad? I certainly think so. This isn't a video about music, but Golden is so compressed that it sounds like somebody stuck a JBL speaker in a trash compactor. Is the story simple? Yes, I guess the ending in about 4 seconds. Do I need a haircut? Probably. Anyways, this movie is good. I don't care what you think of me for that statement. Begonia is up for Best Picture, Lead Actress, Adapted Screenplay, and Original Score. Yorgos Lanthimos' 4th film with Emma Stone and his latest foray into weird-ass filmmaking is actually a little too straightforward for me. In this film, 2 conspiracy-obsessed young men kidnap the high-powered CEO of a major company, convinced that she is an alien intent on destroying the planet Earth. My issue with this film comes from the fact that it's too grounded to be quirky. Plemons especially gives a tour de force performance, and the commentary on internet rabbit holes and male loneliness is somewhat compelling, but it doesn't do enough, and that ending pretty much craps all over the rest of the film in a really anticlimactic way that I'm sure works for some people. I've seen people like it, but not me personally. Weapons is up for Supporting Actress. When all but one child from the same class mysteriously vanish on the same night, it's up to Julia Garner to save the day with her innate powers of Zionism. This movie continues the comedy and horror mixture that made Barbarian so much fun. Zach Kreger clearly understands how to play with audience expectations, and there are multiple moments where the movie takes a left turn in a way that feels genuinely original. The ideas on display here are fantastic, lightning in a bottle concepts, but the problem is that those ideas never fully come together. The plot starts to unravel the more you think about it, and by the end it kind of stops making sense entirely. It feels like the movie is more interested in individual scenes and shocking reveals than building a coherent narrative. But the ending is absolutely batshit insane, and I respect it for that. It swings for the fences in a way that most studio horror movies wouldn't dare try. Honestly, I'd rather watch a horror movie that tries something this weird and messy than one that plays it safe, and as Kreger continues to hone his craft, I will be tuning in. That being said, if Amy Madigan wins this award, I'm losing my shit. Next. Kokuo is up for makeup and hairstyling. A sprawling epic of gigantic proportions, Kokuo follows an orphan boy from the Yakuza who is taken by kabuki master Hanjiro to train under his wing. Throughout the 3-hour runtime of this film, Kikuo competes with Hanjiro's son Shunsuke to become the titular Kokuo, the best kabuki actor alive. Despite its length and multiple time jumps over 50 years, I wound up really enjoying this film knowing nothing about the kabuki culture. It is a clear love letter to the art form and even contains multiple full scenes from the performances that the characters act out. But the costuming and the hair and makeup are outstanding, leading to a truly authentic feeling experience, and the editing is also really well done, making particularly the first 2 hours fly by. It loses a bit of steam towards the end as it focuses more on the relationship between Kikuo and Shunsuke that wasn't properly built up throughout the beginning. It sucks to see a movie that's this long missing a couple of scenes here and there that could have really fleshed out their dynamic and made the payoff stronger, but overall for such a gargantuan film, it mostly sticks to the landing. You're never gonna believe how how many takes that took. Frankenstein is up for Best Picture, Supporting Actor, Adapted Screenplay, Cinematography, Costume Design, Makeup and Hairstyling, Production Design, Original Score, and Sound. And it is my pick for the Costume Design and Production Design. Frankenstein is really long and slow, which is at its detriment mainly because the story has been told countless times before. The magic of Guillermo del Toro is on full display here, but similarly to Kokuo, it doesn't captivate me enough to warrant the 2.5-hour runtime. That doesn't mean I'm hopping on the hate train with you weirdos. The technical aspects flourish, with Elordi literally vanishing within the costuming and a great transformative performance that I didn't even know he had in him. Oscar Isaac is also there, and delivers a serviceable enough performance to keep the wheels spinning. The production design, specifically on the castle and the ship, are immaculate as well, and definitely worthy of the award. The 3-act structure brings new perspectives to an old story, and Del Toro's flair makes it an enjoyable watch, even if I checked my phone a couple of times, don't tell anyone. The Alabama Solution is up for documentary feature and is my pick. This documentary dives into the prison system in Alabama, focusing on the state's controversial and extreme measures that they enact to dehumanize the inmates. It utilizes a clever blend of interview footage outside the prison walls and footage from cell phones smuggled in illegally by the incarcerated men. One major focus is the death of Stephen Davis, who was unfairly beaten by prison guards, with the event being covered up by the institution. Of all the documentaries this year, the Alabama Solution felt the most tangible. It was a well-crafted narrative that was easy to follow, engaging, and had something important to say. The Secret Agent is up for Best Picture, Lead Actor, Casting, and International Feature. And this is a film that I didn't really get at first. Every time I thought I had a grasp on what it was saying, it would switch up on me entirely. It is a flowing river of theme and genre that never really settles until you start to unpack its layers piece by piece, maybe months after you've seen it. This is a movie that has grown on me, even though I haven't had the chance to revisit it, because there is so much to it, and because it delivers its message in such an interesting way, with such a defined style that really works. The film is anchored by its central performance by Wagner Moura, which he is excellent in, and his character has so much depth that is not immediately revealed because of the explicit focus the film has on memory. I wouldn't say it particularly emotionally connected with me, but it keeps you at a distance on purpose, and whether you like that or not will ultimately decide how you feel about the ending, which I thought sucked, but I'm casually warming up. Train Dreams is up for Best Picture, Adapted Screenplay, and Cinematography, and is my pick for cinematography. Not much happens in this movie. The official summary says, and I quote, "A logger leads a life of quiet grace as he experiences love and loss during an era of monumental change in early 20th century America." People call it boring for this exact reason. But with a film like this, you have to look in between the nothing and piece together the true meaning for yourself. What you'll find is a beautiful meditation on persistence through life and all of the hardships that you'll face along the way. And if you let it take you on that meditative journey, it helps that it features the most gorgeous looking shots of the year. It Was Just an Accident is up for Original Screenplay and International Feature. This was my introduction to Jafar Panahi, who filmed this movie in secret because the Iranian government wouldn't let him make it. And it's about a man who thinks he might have discovered his former torturer, and what is he gonna do about it? There's something so intriguing about the clandestine nature of the filmmaking that kind of seeps into the movie as you are watching it, and fills it with an indescribable energy. That tension mirrors the story perfectly, because the entire film is about uncertainty, and whether this man is right, whether revenge is justified, and whether justice is even possible in a system that created the problem in the first place. What really impressed me is how simple yet riveting it all is. Most of the movie is just conversations, people sitting in rooms or cars debating what to do next, but the film trusts its writing and performances to carry everything, and they absolutely do. The voice of Hind Rajab is up for Best International Feature, and I honestly hate the fact that this movie exists. It focuses on the Red Crescent Emergency Call Center during the killing of Hind Rajab, a 6-year-old Palestinian girl who was murdered by the IDF during the Israeli invasion of the Gaza Strip. This is her real-life voice recordings, blended with scripted reenactments to tell the story. Among all the horror films, thrillers, and documentaries that were nominated this year, this is the film that is by far the hardest to watch because of how real it feels. It is extremely difficult to make a film like this work effectively, as it stays in one room the entire time and features very few changes in the structure. But Ben Hania's direction commands the film with such a powerful tension that makes you feel like you are there. It is paralyzing in its portrayal of the ongoing genocide and impossible to look away from. Little Amelie, or The Character of Rain, is up for Best Animated Feature, and it is my pick to win. The Academy gives it to K-pop Demon Hunters instead. I'd legitimately lose faith in them as an institution. This movie is that good. For me at least, when I first saw the animation, I thought it was ugly, but I grew to love it almost immediately. It has a particular softness that works so beautifully with the Japanese setting and the worldview of a child. And this is kind of the perfect medium to explore the point of view of a child from. As it allows you to bend the world to the way that they would see it. The story of Little Amelie is also amazing, as it handles the emotional moments perfectly against the wonder and curiosity of growing up and learning how to live. I can't lie and say I didn't cry a little bit, although would you believe me if I said it was rain? Surat is up for Best Sound and International Feature, and it is my pick for sound design. Oh boy, Surat, what am I gonna do with you? This nightmare of a film follows a father who ventures into the deserts of Morocco to find his daughter at a rave, and this is also not at all a film I expected to be recognized by the Academy. It is an experimental and deeply upsetting masterpiece. The lady next to me, no joke, was sobbing from like an hour in until the end. The father's search becomes less about finding answers as you go on and more about wandering through an emotional purgatory. The film refuses to give you the comfort of clear resolutions of catharsis. I've seen many argue that nothing really happens for a while, that the first half just sits there and the second half is pointless. But in reality, I think it's a really unique take on grief that I found fascinating, and the sound design is doing a huge amount of the heavy lifting. The constant pulse of the rave music blends with the desert wind and the mechanical hum of the generators until everything starts to feel hypnotic and disorienting. It's the kind of film that feels less like a traditional narrative and more like an experience, one that slowly burrows under your skin until you realize how suffocating it all is. And honestly, the fact that something this bleak and away from traditional norms snuck its way into the Oscars lineup is kind of amazing. Marty Supreme is up for Best Picture, Director, Lead Actor, Original Screenplay, Casting, Cinematography, Costume Design, Production Design, and Editing. Unlike his brother Benny, who was way down at, 29, Josh has the sauce. Questionable allegations aside, I genuinely think that Marty Supreme is the best of the duo, even though it's no longer a duo. This is almost like when Mike and Ike broke up, except that was all a marketing ploy. Everything about this movie just kind of works. It's a loose biopic, although capitalize and bold the fuck out of that loose, about Marty Supreme, a ping pong playing hustler from the streets of New York, who wants to be the greatest ping ponger that ever pinged a pong. Timmy is immaculate as a heightened version of himself, and it's a star-studded cast going from there, including Gwyneth Paltrow, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, well that's a little weird, Tyler the Creator. This script is bonkers, the filming is undeniable, and I had a damn good time watching this in theaters sitting adjacent to an elderly couple. The film ultimately comes down to the American dream, what you're willing to do to get it, and where the roots of that desire even emerge from. Unfortunately, as much as I want to give the film some flowers, all of the awards it's nominated for, I think other films higher on this list do ever so slightly better. If there was a marketing award, it would definitely be my pick. Also, Most Aura, it would for sure take that one home. Oh, and maybe Best Needle Drop. No, wait, that one would go to One Battle still. Sinners is up for the most awards in Oscars history, so I'm not going to list them, but it is my pick for lead actor, casting, and original score. And Sinners is nothing short of a movement. It's about vampires, about growing from a boy into a man, it's about the black cultural experience, it's about a celebration of music, and above all else, it is a testament to the fact that original movies can succeed in Hollywood. This whole cast is excellent. Michael B. Jordan delivers a masterclass, portraying two separate characters with necessary distinctions with remarkable ease. And Miles Keaton is also really promising as an up-and-comer. I could see him being a star. Wunmi Mosaku, Delroy Lindo, Haley Steinfeld, I could go on forever. I could also talk about the things I don't love, like the direction in some scenes, such as the cheesy superhero lineup shot right before the doors break down. Also, the pace seemed to be rushing through important story beats, especially towards the latter half, but Sinners also contains possibly the greatest scene of the decade so far with the I Lied to You scene. As the aspect ratio changes, Ludwig Göransson's fantastic score sets in, and Keaton leads us in a dance throughout culture and history like no other. If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You is up for Best Lead Actress, and it is 110% my pick. Rose Byrne is the truth, I think. Her performance as the most tired woman on planet Earth is truly something to behold, but the rest of the film around her is just as captivating. This is not a horror movie by conventional means, but Jesus Christ, is it horrifying. It follows a woman named Linda, who is a little demon child with a mysterious illness, a husband who is overseas, a hole in her ceiling, and a whole lot more stress than that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just the tip of the iceberg for old Linda. I can't believe this thing didn't get a nod for Best Direction either. Truly one of the most confident kick-in-the-door directorial debuts in history. Everything is top-notch. Even A$AP Rocky looks surprisingly confident in this, but oh man, if I ever hear that child again, I'm punting her at Mach 10. Sentimental Value is up for Best Picture, Director, Lead Actress, Supporting Actress twice, Original Screenplay, Editing, and International Feature. This is my pick for Supporting Actor, Supporting Actress for Inga Ibsdottir Liljas, Original Screenplay, and Best International Feature. I never watched The Worst Person in the World, but Joachim Trier's follow-up makes me really want to go back and give that one a viewing. This was my last of the Best Picture nominees, partly because I didn't want to end on F1, but waiting until then was so rewarding because I was met with an expertly crafted and dynamic examination of both nostalgia and family. Trier commands great things out of his actors with such ease, especially given how dense this screenplay is and how refined these performances needed to be to reflect the nuance inside of it. It's about a filmmaker who writes a new movie with the idea for his estranged daughter to be the lead, and by the end they had me tearing up over a fucking house. You know how embarrassing it is to get emotional because of a building? And finally, at our number one spot is, of course, One Battle After Another, which is nominated for Best Picture, Director, Lead Actor, Supporting Actor twice, Supporting Actress, Adapted Screenplay, Casting, Cinematography, Production Design, Editing, Original Score, and Sound, and is my pick for Best Picture, Director, Adapted Screenplay, and Editing. Oh my god. What can't be said about One Battle After Another? I mean, at face value, it tells the story of a former revolutionary who sets out to rescue his daughter. But in totality, it is an uncompromised, holistic vision from one of the greatest filmmakers working today. As somebody who has witnessed firsthand the discourse around this film shift from exclusive praise all the way to a wave of criticism, and stuck by it as my favorite movie of the year, I have a love for this movie that cannot be tarnished. Now, everyone has talked ad nauseum about this one, so I'll try to keep it brief. But to me, the reason it's never left that top spot is because it has a certain energy about it that has been missing from the movies for a long time. I've seen it more than any other film from this list, and it still manages to impress. The runtime absolutely whips by at a barreling pace, turning 2 hours and 45 minutes into a breeze, and every technical element is at its peak, from PTA's direction to the cinematography, writing, editing, and score. I think it also has everything you could possibly be looking for in a film. It's one of the most intense dramas of the year, it has some of the most thrilling action sequences, some of the biggest laugh-out-loud moments, and yet it can somehow juggle it all. Seeing this in theaters was an experience I will never forget, and if it doesn't win Best Picture, I'm nuking the Academy. I want to watch them bleed out as I kill.
Yeah, we actually had to kick that guy out, but just like subscribe or whatever. I don't know.